Hi, my name is Cadence. I'm a Black Girls Code student ambassador, and I'm here at Adobe's Black People Create Black History Month event. I'm really excited to speak about my experience with Black Girls Code and my passion for art and technology. Hi, thank you so much for having me. Black Girls Code is a nonprofit organization founded in 2011 by Kimberly Bryant, and their mission is to increase the number of women in tech, to train 1 million girls by 2040, and basically to empower the next generation of young girls of color with the tools and resources they need. The way that Black Girls Code empowers girls like me is so important. Usually young girls or people of color looking at such like a white male-dominated space or things like that can seem discouraging, but with Black Girls Code you are surrounded by peers who have the same passion as you, who have the same motivation as you, and that makes you feel so accepted and empowered and motivated. And like, it makes me hopeful when I go there and I see all my friends and we're all learning about these new things and exploring these new careers. It makes me really happy.
Hi, my name is Charmaine Butterfield. I'm a student ambassador for Black Girls Code, and I'm on the panel for the UDASLY Black History Month event. It means kind of a lot to me because I get to make connections with people who are also on the panel and who else is in the industry, and I get to connect with the audience. I'm a little nervous, but I'm also excited at the same time. I can't wait to see who else is on the panel, and I can't wait to hear their side of the story.
Charmy is our youngest panelist we have. Sorry to put you on the spot, but she's in the 10th grade. And she's already doing amazing things.
All right, I guess that's our cue to get going. So welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here at South by Southwest today for our feature presentation on cracking the code for girls and women of color in the field of technology and ushering in the next generation of tech leaders. I'm really happy and excited to be a part of this session today. My name is Kimberly Bryant. I'm the founder and CEO of Black Girls Code. And I think that, it's an understatement to say that this has been a very long journey, including our visit to Austin this year for South by Southwest. I made a tweet this morning that I thought it was my 7th year of coming to South by Southwest, but it's actually our 6th. And the very first time we came, we brought maybe a group of 1 girl who I think was my daughter Kai. And this year we're joined by 14 BGC alumni that you'll see here in the audience, as well as the 4 young ladies that I've asked to join me in the panel today. So it's been a great journey of seeing our organization grow, as well as our immersion within the South by Southwest community really grow along with us as we've really seen this organization become an international movement. So to give you just a little brief background about Black Girls Code before we jump into our conversation today, we started back in 2011, and this idea, if you will, began because I saw my daughter Kai develop this really strong interest in gaming and computer science around the time she was going to middle school. As I was looking myself as a mom for opportunities for her to really start to build this skill set and this talent, I noticed that there was a strong lack of opportunities for her to explore this new interest in a community of girls that looked like her. Sure, there were coding programs and summer camps that were engaging young people in learning computer science, but the very first one that I found for her was a classroom full of boys, and she was the only student of color and one of only a handful of girls. As a mother, that struck me in a way, but it struck me even more because I am a trained engineer myself, studied computer science when I went to college, entered the engineering management field in various companies, and found myself often in rooms where I was the only woman, I was the only woman in leadership, and I was often one of the very few women in the technical side of the business. I really wanted this narrative to change with Kai, my daughter Kai, and I also wanted to do more than just create opportunities for my own child and my own household. But I didn't know how to do that because I was an engineer, I was not a nonprofit professional. But I think what this shows is that you don't have to necessarily have credentials to create change. Anyone can create change. If you see a problem, you see something, do something. And that's exactly what I did. I talked to all my friends that I worked with at the biotech company that I was working with. They agreed to join me and form this team. And we started very small with 6 girls in a computer basement in San Francisco. And we started to build this organization around creating opportunities for girls from underrepresented communities to come in into a supportive environment and learn how creative and how innovative they could become. So since that very meager beginning, some of the things that we fought against is the stereotypes for women in computer science and also negative information around the statistics. One of the key factors why BGC is so important is because when I was going to school to get my degree in engineering, there were very few women in my classes. However, if you look at the statistics, it was actually about 32% of women receiving computer science degrees in the mid-'80s. So yes, I'm very old, and yes, we had lots of women getting computer science degrees in the mid-'80s, but it did not seem that way in my college classroom. I was often the only Black woman in the School of Engineering. I'm not even talking about my class. In the School of Engineering, there were probably 3 Black women. And I was the only one in my freshman class in electrical engineering. There are few in other disciplines, but I didn't see them in any of my classes. I never had a female professor. And the unfortunate thing is that those statistics have not improved to date. Currently, if you look at the number of women of color, women graduating with bachelor's degrees in CS, it varies between 12 and 14%. Now, remember I said in the mid-'80s it was about 32 to 35%, so less than half. But for women of color, that number is even worse. African American women receive only about 3% of bachelor's degrees in computer science, and for Latinas and Native Americans, there's less than 1%. So when we hear in the media there's an issue with the pipeline, that's part of the story. Because yes, we need more women and more women of color and more students of color matriculating through K through 12 with an exposure to computer science. But the story doesn't end there. Because if you look at the number of Black and brown technologists that are currently in the workforce, their numbers far exceed the representation currently in the tech industry. So that speaks to a cultural narrative that we're also working against as we introduce these young ladies that you see on the stage and in the audience to the career fields in technology. Since that day, I think lots has changed in the industry. We're having these strong conversations about diversity and inclusion, and along with this wave, Black Girls Code has grown as an organization. We currently have 15 chapters across the US and abroad, and we've reached about 10,000 students to date, some of which you see here in the audience and who are on the stage with me today. So what we invite you to do for the next piece of this presentation is listen to a conversation. Our work at Go with BGC this year is really about elevating the voices of our students and lowering our voices as the adults in the room. I think it's vitally important, not just in technology, but in every single career field, that we let the young people and the youth lead the way. And so this year with us, our whole Future Tech Boss initiative and everything that we're doing at South by Southwest this year and abroad is about bringing their voices, their stories, and their journeys to the forefront. So I'm going to start the conversation by introducing the tech divas that are here with me today. From my right to my left, they're going to introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about them before we jump into our questions. Alexandra.
Start off, my name is Alexandra PHILLIP. I am originally from Dallas, Texas, but currently am a freshman at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Daytona Beach, Florida. I am majoring in aerospace engineering with a minor in flight and astronomy, and I currently aspire to become a flight test engineer for Virgin Galactic.
My name is Kai Morton. My home is in California, and I go to school in Baltimore, Maryland, at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, and I'm studying computer science with a concentration in video game development. And hopefully, after I graduate, I want to get my master's in management and business, along with computer science, and then become part of the tech field, and eventually become my own tech CEO.
Hi everyone, my name is AMINATA. I'm currently a sophomore at Tufts University. I'm studying computer science and English as a double major. I do hope to get my master's in computer science as well, and pursue a career as a full stack developer.
Hi everyone, my name is Olivia Ross, and I'm a graduating high school senior from PHILLIP Exeter Academy. I am from Queens, New York City, and my intended major is computer science and art and interdisciplinary focus. And my dream career would be a teaching artist and educator mixing computational techniques and art.
So now we're going to jump into our conversation, and we invite you to engage with us as if you're spectators and we're just having a conversation around my coffee table. So which one of you wants to get started with your question?
I'll start with mine.
Go for it, Alexandra.
Okay, so.
And speak up a little bit.
Okay. My question is, what is one personal challenge that you face as a woman of color in the technology field that you want to go into?
Who wants to answer that?
I can start. So I sort of always knew that I had an interest in the STEM field. Growing up, I was really interested in puzzles, logic sort of games of that sort, and there's a really systematic nature to programming that I was drawn to. And so I attended a specialized high school, Brooklyn Tech, and there were a lot of resources there that sort of supported my ability to develop skills relating to computer science. But despite there being like the material resources for me to apply my knowledge, there were really hostile sort of environments that I had to exist in. There was a major track that my school had, and I was in the robotics major. The ratio of boys to girls there was about 58-7, and of those girls, I was the only black girl, and so a lot of times I would feel that there were problematic sort of actions taken by my peers that were perpetrated by my male faculty as well. And so there was kind of a lack of recourse or safety that I felt in that environment at the point where I was told that I stuck out like a sore thumb. And so at the time where I was really struggling with that environment and feeling as though I didn't belong in STEM, I started volunteering as a teaching assistant for Black Girls Code in New York, and that sort of gave me what I needed to keep going. And I'm like where I am now probably because of the environment and like the support that I was able to see from those programs.
That example resonates with me. I was speaking to a reporter recently, and he asked me something similar. Like, can I talk about an experience in my professional life when I felt I was not being heard or listened to, or when it was a struggle? And I shared with him in this experience that I had in my very first engineering role as a manager. I was a project manager in a large chemical manufacturing plant. And I would literally be responsible for doing all the design, laying it all out, working with the general contractor, and building massive installations in the site. That's my job. And folks that worked on the project, even from the general construction site, they would report to me, basically. And I remember going on a job site for a very first walkthrough and meeting this one general contractor along with a subcontractor assistant. So that's somebody that I hired for the project. And during the whole conversation, the contract manager would speak to my direct report for all the questions instead of me. But I did all the plans. I hired them for this job. But he really could not see me in that role as a leader, as a manager. And I had to, on the site during this walkthrough, correct him and remind him that actually I am the project manager, so I can answer all the questions that you have, and this is my direct report. So I think it speaks to me from that level of oftentimes as both young women and as women in a male-dominated career field, we're often overlooked, and we have to overexert our authority to prove that we're capable. And I think it's unfortunate, but it's something that I learned throughout my career in this field that you have to get comfortable with, because oftentimes we're going to often be in these situations where we're challenged. Anybody else have any similar experiences?
I had a very similar experience with my own robotics team at my high school, because going into my high school, I went to an all-girls middle school, and within that, it was very STEM focused and like hands-on learning focused. So of course, there was a robotics team using the Lego FLL products, and I was part of it as like a programmer and sometimes the engineer actually making the robot. And I was comfortable with robotics, and I started to really love robotics, so I was excited because I knew my high school that I was going into was gonna have a program for me to kind of sate my appetite for robotics. But like when I got there, like the teacher was so confused, because I mean there was like no girls in the club at the time. Like eventually there was an older girl that became my friend that joined the club later on, but when I first walked into that room, I just felt like so far apart from everybody else, and that was weird because I mean, it wasn't my first time doing robotics. I know all about robotics at that time, and walking into that room, I felt completely alien, even though everyone else shared like the same aspirations for robotics as I did. And I just found that like a lot of the team members, not necessarily the leadership of the robotics team, just discounted like my opinions when I said something, or as if like I didn't know what I was talking about. Even when, like, coming from experience, I was maybe more experienced than some of the men in this club. So it wasn't a great experience, and I kind of had to go through that for at least the first year. And then eventually, as I started coming more and more and becoming more comfortable with the members in the club, it started to change and shift. But it was very uncomfortable at the beginning. But gratefully, like in my senior year, I was able to take the leadership position and become one of the co-leads of the club, so I could make some more changes. But I feel like they needed some more female leadership from the beginning so that we could have had a lot more women, because there was like still, by my senior year, only one other girl in the club. And that was really disheartening, considering that there's a lot of women that I knew at that school that were interested in robotics and interested in engineering and computer science, but going into an environment that's very male-dominated is very daunting, especially if you don't feel like you have the means to project your voice and let others know in the room that I know who I am, I know what I can do, and I belong here. So, yeah.
So when you're faced in situations like that, and you're the only girl in the room, how do you push through, Olivia?
Well, for me, recently, I've been inspired by a quote that I found online that was essentially said, "Water yourself down in the shower." So the idea that, like, I don't know, I have a Google Drive file that I use to like help me like battle imposter syndrome, or just like whenever I do something or complete a project or like do something that I feel like cements like is like evidence that I know what I'm doing, I keep it in a Google Drive file. Whenever I do something that like is kind of scary or makes me feel like I'm not prepared, I like read it and remind myself that I like have the credentials, like these are the statistics. So I find that like taking that knowledge and understanding that I am prepared and that I've been prepared makes it a lot easier for me to like stand my own and stand in my truth and not allow like external forces to make me feel like I'm not worthy to be in that space.
I love it. Amina, do you have a question for us that you wanted to share?
Yeah. So speaking about my first time going to a Black Girls Code workshop, it was a workshop for really young children, so about 7 years old, and I was in high school, and I just like wanted to cry after being there because it was so different. My experiences in the classroom, feeling like I was second-guessing myself, uncertain about the knowledge that I knew that I had, not feeling comfortable speaking to my peers about different ideas and bouncing ideas off of them for the reason that there was like a cult of a boys club essentially that I just didn't belong to. And like going to a Black Girls Code workshop and just seeing girls like excited and uncertain but willing to engage with the materials and like such a supportive staff there, yeah, I wanted to cry. So what sort of feelings do you aspire for Black Girls Code participants to come away from those sort of events with?
I think for me, it's about creating this community of support. I think one of the things that I've always felt in my career as a Black woman that I was often felt like I was on an island, so to speak, alone, like I was like stranded. And there wasn't ever someone that I could reach out to that kind of understood what I was going through. And when I'm in a Black Girls Code event, and as we were putting this organization together from the very beginning, that's the thing that I wanted to keep my daughter from having to experience, and my daughters from having to experience. I didn't want you all to feel alone. I wanted you all to feel like there was a community that would be there to have your back. I think as women in any career field, we have such strong communal bonds with each other, right? It's just sort of like in our nature. To me, I mean, I could be wrong. Someone could say that I am not right, but I feel it. I've always felt it in my womanness that, you know, this sisterhood issue, it's not even an issue, this sisterhood element of our being is how we get through the hard times. And so when I see you all interacting with each other, even if it's just trying to figure out a problem and putting the robot together, even coming over from the airport, I was in the front seat of the car with some of the other tech divas. Alexandra was in the car, and she's the oldest of the girls that I was riding with. And I just listened to the conversation as she asked some of the other girls about, well, how's your senior year going? Like, is it okay? Tell me about it. Like, did you get your acceptances yet? Where are you applying to? And you all started talking about, well, yeah, I'm looking at MIT, but it was too much to do all of that they wanted to do. I was thinking in my head, you're right. And just hearing how you clicked with each other and how the older girls would support the younger girls, it's really a beautiful thing. And I think when we often talk about what's the magic of BGC is that. It's not that we're teaching you all how to become full stack developer or Java developer. It's none of that, because you can get that anywhere. But I think this sisterhood and this bond that we develop throughout the organization, that from you all within yourselves, even from the volunteers like Tasia and Crystal that come in and work with you all, that's unique. And I think that's a special magic that we share. Yeah. What about you all? What makes it special for you within BGC?
I feel like there's just like a completely different teaching environment, even aside from the student relationships and community that's built. There's just different side of teaching, and I think the best explanation for it was I was in English class recently, and we were reading an article about the difference in like boys and girls upbringing and how it like kind of transfers over to the classroom. Like boys have like a more hierarchical structure in terms of their friend groups. They have like their friends are mostly the people that they hang out with the most and do activities with. And the top is like the lead boy. He's supposed to be like the most, I guess, social normative guy, the coolest guy in the group or whatever. And they like kind of, yeah, they just like, he leads everyone else in the group, basically. But within female groups, it's usually that it's a little more smaller and tighter knit, and they share secrets between each other. And these differences are like in the classroom, because a lot of classrooms are very discussion-based nowadays. And the classroom style is.
They were discussion based in my day too.
Yeah, it's more like the classrooms like participate in ritual opposition. That's what the word for it was, and that's more similar to the male style of learning because men tend to be able to like announce their opinions and say what they need to say about what they feel, blah, 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 blah. And then girls, on the other hand, like participate in ritual lament, where they talk about their feelings and like how it makes them feel, how they think, whatever your topic you're discussing in class, like how it kind of connects to a broader picture. But more classrooms tend to like focus on ritual opposition than ritual lament, which is leaving out the more feministic style to learning. So I think being in a Black Girls Code environment where you're around a lot of female teachers and women who are supporting you, and it's not just like a hierarchical structure where you feel like you have to climb up to the top to say something or to make an impact, but you're together and talking about something and learning together is a different environment than a lot of girls will be able to experience in their traditional learning environments, whether it be in school or college.
Olivia, I know you had a question for us. What's your question?
Oh, my question was, since we're all in different like stages of our like technological careers, right? Like some of us are in college, some of us are not in college, some of us did college a while back. And so,
Thanks a lot.
My question was what you feel or what you have felt or what you've been lacking and what you desire most out of the environments that you inhabit, and what you feel is most necessary for you to be like your truest self.
That's a great question. Who wants to take that one? Alexandra?
Well, I would say that, especially since I'm in college and this is my first year, I would just say it's just a matter of just speaking up and networking. Because the one thing that I see with a lot of girls is that they can be very overlooked at my college because it's primarily 85% male and the 15% women. So females can be very overlooked, especially on specific projects within the AE program. So it's very important to just be one of those leaders. That's why in every project that I do, I always want to be the project lead. I always want to make sure to delegate tasks to everyone. I love to make sure that the team is successful. I like a successful team because a successful team leads to a successful project. And it leads to a successful grade because I mean, sometimes you can see it because for guys, they would just shout out different ideas without thinking it through. With females, we know how to plan things out over a long period of time. And so in being that, I just like it when more female or potential leaders, because you can see the differences in versus a male being a leader and a female being a leader because they're more understanding, especially if someone has personal issues within a team project. So that's the one thing that I think in college is that, especially young women of color, because I don't really see many women of color really in the AE program or even being project leads. So that's just one thing that you have to think about in college is to always stand out from the rest of the class. Because in class, you're mainly seen as a number. So it's best to make sure to stand out from the rest of them, make them just show why you're special out of everyone else.
Relevant. Anybody else want to take a stab at that one? Amina?
Yeah, I guess I'd just like to echo Alexandra's response. Self-advocacy is extremely important. And there are so many instances where, you can doubt yourself or your ideas and sort of just being able to, and it's a really large burden and onus to have to prove yourself in every instance or like environment that you find yourself. But yeah, definitely needing to form relationships with folks that can help you, and that includes professors and like your peers, because I definitely have so many peer mentors who are my age and older than myself, but have given me ideas and confidence and experience in like their words and sort of how they've been able to, just become who they've become, and every like sort of interaction, just taking away what others have learned and what others know and using that to formulate like a better you every day, waking up, just continually growing.
Since I guess I will bring in the rear as one of the older persons on the stage and in my career. I think one of the things for me that I learned this year, Olivia, that is, it's okay to say no. And that's all you have to say. You don't have to give an explanation about the no. You just say no. I think for me, I've learned how freeing it is to set boundaries, and learning how to say no as a woman in a position of authority, I think, has given me some freedom that I have never experienced before. And it's made my days a lot easier from that respect, and not feeling so burdened by having to do everything and be everything to everybody. And I wish I had learned this a long time ago.
For myself, I feel like just building a tribe is like one of the biggest things for me, at least because my friend Jared was like talking a couple of days ago, and he was like, wow, I would be probably such a better student if I just didn't have any friends at all, just like didn't know anybody, and I could just be in the library studying all the time. And being at the school that we are, it made sense to me in the moment. I was like, I absolutely agree. If I could have no friends at all, that'd be great. But when I was thinking about it, I was like, I don't think I could have survived at this school if I didn't have the tribe or my friend group that I have right now, because our school is very, very difficult. The classes are weed out courses for like the first 2 years. I mean, that's often how it is at many schools, but especially since, at least for my friend group, we're all either engineers, scientists, or something in between. So I could see where it was coming from, but I just thought about it more, and I was like, I just really couldn't get through none of the experience that I'm having like in my challenging courses if I didn't have friends who are like going through the same things and able to just rant about it with them every now and then, or just joke around with them about different stuff at our school. So I feel like having a tribe is really, really helpful, especially for girls, because I feel like we value community a lot more rather than just being at the top. Being at the top is great, but if you don't have a community that's behind you, what's it worth?
Got it.
Oh yeah, I would also like to piggyback off of that. It is highly important to just make connections with either peers or the faculty, because they really want to help you. Such as in college, I made sure to know all the women of color in my AA program, because they can help you, especially those that are in graduate level, because they really want to get more women of color in their program. And it's also good to just make sure to make friends, and just, especially just even women, because they're willing to help you, especially if you need help in your studies. And it's nice to know the minority professors there, because they also really want to help push you towards what career fields you want to go in, because they're the professors that are really, really going to push you and really going to make sure to get your name out there.
Great.
I really
So we're,
like that.
go ahead, Olivia.
I just wanted to say I really like that you included like the idea of like making friends, because I feel like whenever we talk about networking, we talk about it in like this really like high
leveling
level,
up.
like
Yeah.
hard to understand, like networking, like it's, and it almost makes me feel like only white guys can network.
Yeah, networking is.
And like I feel like when you consider networking as literally just like making like friends who like are equally like concerned about like your career trajectory, and like it's like having it be like a strong give and take relationship. And like if you look at it that way, almost every single Black Girls Code meetup is a networking event, because we're all making friends.
Yeah.
Right? And these like 7-year-old girls who are making best friends with each other are networking with each other, and eventually they'll be in their 20s and working and like be each other's peers and be able to lean on each other, which I think is really cool.
Absolutely. You can clap for that. All right, I'm going to roll on to Kai, and I think Kai has a question, and we're going to roll it into the question asked for the audience. So Kai, do you have a question for us?
Yeah, my question was, if you were to envision the technology field as at its peak, at its utopia version, or the best version of itself, how would you imagine it? What kind of people would be in charge? What would the field look like? Things like that.
For me?
For anyone on the panel.
I can start off. I think for me, my vision, and I hope that I'll live to see in this industry, is an industry that's led by women like you, or women that I look out and see in the audience. And men, I'm not saying that you won't be there. There's a place for you as well. I just feel that I want to live in a world where I see more women-centered workplace cultures, and to be able to experience those companies being led by women that look like yourselves. So when we started Black Girls Code, I can say unequivocally, I would say emphatically, I want to create the next Mark Zuckerberg. And that's my goal. And in a nutshell, that's still my goal, but I don't want to create the next Mark Zuckerberg. I want to create the next Alexandra. I want to create the next Kai. I want to create the next Amina. I want to create the next Olivia. I want to create the next Maya. I want to create the next Azure. I want to create the next Asia. I want to create the next organizations that are run by you, that are created by your visions in whatever field that may be in. And I think that the world has so much to gain by having you all take the lead. Anybody else you guys have? What's your thoughts, actually? That's my job. Like, what do you all want? What do you want out of this deal?
Well, for me, I personally just want more women of color to just go into even just the spaceflight fight industry, because there's not really many, I don't see that many African American women going into space nowadays. And so that's just one big pet peeve that I have, especially at me that wants to go into the commercial spaceflight industry. I just want to get at least more women of color to go pursue a career in the spaceflight industry, whether it's NASA or SpaceX or Encore, just more along the line of those areas.
All right, let's take some audience questions. I see them coming up on Slido. So the first one that they've sent us is, who inspires you the most, an actual person if possible?
Right now, I'm really inspired by this woman named Amy Wabowo. She she runs a zine business called Bubble Sort Zines, and it was one of the first introduction to zines that I had. And what was really special about it was that she was taking technical concepts and breaking them down in a way that was really, really accessible to girls my age. I was in around the 8th grade when I found out about her. And I've read her interviews and listened to her speak, and the thing that struck out to me the most was how much she not only prioritized, but really, really respected the idea of feminine leadership and the feminine skills that are oftentimes trod upon in the tech industry, and how important those are to build healthy, vibrant communities and companies. Especially because when we talk about sexism, we often talk about oppositional sexism, and we say girls can do anything they want, right? A girl can do anything a man can do. But we don't often say that it's okay for girls to do the things that girls traditionally do. We don't really fight traditional sexism as much as we fight oppositional sexism. And I feel the way that she almost embraces that side, right? She was once criticized for having pink slides when she was presenting something, and it was purely because they were pink and that was distracting. And I feel having the gumption to really stand by her choice and be able to embrace that, and also understand that you don't have to, computer science doesn't exist in a vacuum, and that there's so much of life that can enrich computer science and technical fields. You can mix it with art, you can mix it with marketing, you can mix it with people and systems and sciences and biology and all these sorts of things. That viewing things in a very solitary way rather than an interdisciplinary, holistic way is just not the way.
Got it. All right, the next question. Who wants this one? How did you choose your major?
Okay,
Go
so you got this one.
Yes, and you're raising your hand.
Yes, I got this. Yeah, I still raise my hand. I'm sorry. Since I have it, Okay, so I first chose the major because as a young girl, I always traveled a lot. So originally, I wanted to be a pilot when I was 6 years old. I was like, I'm gonna be a pilot, I wanna do this. And then further along it's very costly to be a pilot, especially when you're starting out. So at first, my mom's like, you should do engineering, because I loved math. So I was like, I could do engineering because because I love to do math all the time. The only hardest part about engineering was just drawing, because I wasn't a great drawer, so I had to learn how to draw. So along the years, I started to get into engineering, and I started to try to focus on what type of engineering I wanted to do. And I knew I was very interested in spacecraft and satellites, and I wanted to design spaceships. So in high school, I took an aerospace engineering course, which really helped to propel my knowledge into aerospace engineering. So I made a deal with my mom that I would major in aerospace engineering, but I would also put a minor to flight so that I can continue doing pilot training. So in the end, I decided that I was going to definitely major in aerospace engineering, as it combined my love with designing spacecraft and actually learning about how to build rockets, and combine it with minoring in the flight, which would be pilot training, in order to reach my ultimate career goal.
Great. All right, next question. What has been, quick one-word answer for everyone. What was your favorite BGC workshop that pushed you to continue in tech? One sentence, everybody answer. One quick time. Olivia. Favorite workshop, BGC? Shout it out.
Code a Brighter Future Hackathon.
Hackathon. Video game development.
Video game.
Hackathon.
Hackathon.
Yeah, video game.
Video game.
Yeah.
I never wanted to teach gaming in this organization, so I don't understand what's going on.
You like it?
All right. Do you recall, this is from Nikki Babel, I think. Do you recall the person that first noticed your aptitude for STEM, and what did they say to you? Were they male or female, black, white? Do you remember the first person that encouraged you in STEM? Who were they?
I think it would be my dad, who is black. And he would just I was crazy about Legos growing up, just always trying to do something with my hands and jigsaw puzzles and stuff. And so he would always be supporting me in making sure that I had the materials to play with and explore, and just feel my way around the world and come to know it. So definitely still my biggest cheerleader.
I love it.
to date.
Anybody else?
You. I mean, as the story goes, I was playing video games in your room, and you're like, stop playing those video games, Kai. And I was like, I don't want to stop. I want to be a video game tester. And you're like, why don't you just make some of your own? And I was just like, you know what? Let me see what that's about. And
it took me 20 years to get this credit, but I'll take it.
So that's how I eventually started going to this video game development camp over the summer and started learning how to code. And I found out I really liked it, and I liked how I could incorporate a lot of different hobbies that I had together into one, and it was fun. So yeah.
Cool. All right. This one is from Joy. You all touched on some on-campus support issues, but what on-campus support, not issues, but what if you don't have, that's okay. I'm just reading. I got my glasses on. So if you have, there's some on-campus support, but what if you don't have minority professors to provide that support for you? How do you keep encouraged and keep from getting discouraged and keep your momentum going forward?
I think that you definitely, to piggyback on everything that we discussed about peer sort of mentorship, tap into other students in your school who are experiencing similar things to you. Talk about your feelings and coursework and form affinity groups so that you know what you're going through is real, because it's really easy to find your experiences happening in a vacuum or be isolated by them. So definitely just creating that support that you know that you need, making sure that there's a system for other students to enter into your school and be on campus and feel safe.
Anybody else?
I think also really tapping into the support that you have off campus and not getting too trapped up in the collegiate school bubble, because well, Black Girls Code, for one, has a lot of chapters in a lot of different places. So if you could always go to one, well, not always, not in all places, but also like thinking about your family. Like I call my mom really often from school, and I rant to her and we talk a lot, and I'm pretty sure like my mental health would not be as good as it is if I didn't have her constantly to bounce off of and really like have that connection and have someone that I know believes in me, right? And I think there's something really special to understand that you're coming from a lineage and that there's like a long path of women who've walked this path before you did and got to the end of it. Like, I remember the first time I saw Hidden Figures, and I definitely like broke down crying in the theater and then saw it 4 more times. And just like knowing that like, I didn't invent myself. Like I didn't just pop up and by myself floating out here and no one talked about it and like no one knew who I was. Like there are people who existed, like I'm not an original like thing, even though I am original, I'm very unique. I'm not some like newfound creation that no one knows what to do with. I'm just me, and there are people like me. And if they can do it, then I can do it.
A question for me from Shauna, I think that is. I saw you speak at Lesbians Who Tech. How do you decide which spaces to show up in and expose BGC to? So I think one of the things I talked about during the Lesbians Who Tech conference that I actually did with my daughter Kai is that we talked about her coming out story and how impactful it was for the two of us going through that journey. And I mentioned how at the time, I was only used to understanding the 2 most evident intersections that she had from her personality. She's a woman and she's a woman of color. So when I found out that she was also a queer woman, I was like, oh my God, my whole world is turning upside down. Like I'm fighting this battle for women and people of color. Now I am going to also be on this front line fighting for women and non-gender conforming and whatever for queer, because there's also a whole different conversation when we bring that intersectionality into the picture. But as a mom, that fiercely protective energy kicked in right away. So for me, it was about making sure that I was more present and understanding the lives of our girls and young women are multifaceted. And it's not just they're Black or brown and they're a woman. What if there's another issue that they are dealing with in a society that is not open to different characteristics in their lives? I don't want them to have any barriers whatsoever. So for me, it's about continually understanding where they are coming from and what they're dealing with, and making sure that BGC has exposure, people understand what we're doing, and that they understand that there are no limitations, but there may be more challenges, and giving them the skills so that they can push through those. And so when I look at where we show up and how we present and what we talk about, even more so now, we're even thinking about even more so like how do we make sure that our workshop and our organizations is open to every girl so that she feels comfortable, or someone who's non-gender conforming. Do they feel comfortable here? Because that's also very important to us. So to answer your question, Sean, I don't know where you are, but that's kind of how I made that decision that was an important space for us to be in. Because our girls don't live in a vacuum. They live in a world where all of their identities are important, and they're going to need to feel comfortable wherever they go. And so that's why we were there. Next, as you all are studying to get your degree, besides the actual work you want to do, what else would intrigue you about joining an organization? About joining another company? I'm hoping that you'll create your own.
I'm unsure what the question is.
Who do you guys understand the question? What would, as you're studying, get your degree, besides the actual work that you were wanting to do, as you're looking at companies, what would make that company appealing?
Okay.
That's a good one.
Yeah. I feel like it's all about
Well,
company
for what
culture.
I look for is when looking to join a company or a particular organization, I look at how it benefits me for the future. Because I'm always looking ahead towards the future to see where do I see myself either within the organization, or where do I see myself within the company? I see whether I'm a right fit for the company, what they are willing to offer me, how they're gonna see me from my point of view as a woman of color working for, say, a spaceflight company.
Anybody else?
I feel like one of the most important things for me, if I were to look at joining a company, is, I don't know, I want to feel proud of the company I work for. I don't want to really like join a company that's like pouring pollution into like oceans. Like, I don't really want to join a company that's like making like the lives of like Black and brown people more difficult. Like, I want to join a community that like I can proudly say is like doing good stuff and also doing really innovative work. So I think the company's mission and the company's like actions and the standards they hold themselves to are really important to me.
A quick one. When are you starting at BGC? Is that Austin?
Yeah.
ATX?
Austin,
Yep.
Texas.
Okay, great. Austin, Texas, got it. Soon. All right, next question. I like this one. I'll answer this one quickly. Do you think it's better to push companies to hire more women, people of color, with less regard to experience, or inspire women of people of color to get into these fields and be the best? My answer to that is yes, do both
I feel
of
like
these things.
my contradictory argument
What's your contradictory
the
argument?
second one more than the first, because I feel like the first is, if a company is just trying to hire as many Black and brown people as they can, I understand what they're trying to do, get more equality, but equality does not mean a seat at the table. So even if you have all those Black and brown people, if they don't even feel like they're being valued, if that's not even a productive work environment for them, if you've not like stopped to think about the other issues that really like present themselves when you're pushing for hiring all these Black people, which is great, or people of color, you're not really thinking about all the aspects of like, how can we make this environment the best for them?
Anybody else see it differently? What do you think?
They let white men be mediocre in different like companies. Like, part of me feels like it's really excellent to like push people of color and women of color to like be the best they can be, but also like I feel like companies should really understand the value that a mediocre person of color can bring in terms of like their perspective and like how much they don't know about like a really large percentage of the world and like how they live their lives and how our needs might be different for our products and how like they can't have certain features and how certain features need to be adapted so that other people can use them. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like if I were looking between like a random robber and like maybe someone who was like blind or like needed like, or someone who like had like information that was valuable to my company in the way that I could build these products, like someone who was Black or brown, had a disability, had like something that would give me a perspective that I would otherwise not be able to like understand, I would definitely pick that person.
Yeah, you don't have to be the best to have a good opinion, so I feel like that's a good
All right, then. I'm going to leave you all with the last word on that. All right, so we have 1 minute and 54 seconds. So what I am going to do now to end up is our lightning round. And remember, we got to get through this in 1 minute and a half. So make it quick. I'm going to go through the first question, everybody answer it, and then I'm going to go to the next question. So first question, when did you first fall in love with technology? Olivia.
6th grade.
7.
11 years old.
6th grade. All right. What women are in tech, past or present, inspires you? Tech or STEM? I'm going to start with Alexandra.
Mae Jemison.
I agree, but also you.
Mae Jemison.
Software engineer Erica Baker.
Erica Baker, all right.
Computer artist Charles Giles.
Got it. Last question. Why do you love BGC, Olivia? I may ask you one more, but make this one the third to the last.
Because I love my sisters.
All right.
Community.
Support.
The social interactions with other girls who think like me.
And I'll end with this last one. When you think about what you hope for a future world and your role in it, what does that look like for you? When you think about what your hopes are for the future, in the world and the tech industry, and you being a part of it, what does that look like for you?
It looks very bright as I try to make sure to get more women into space flight.
Eliminating bro culture.
Eliminating bro culture?
Yeah, within the tech field.
Okay.
There's equal distribution of talent, making sure there's equal distribution of opportunity as well.
Olivia?
I want to make art that helps people understand, helps Black girls understand their place in our like cyber world and their lives and where they fit into all this interconnectedness.
So I'll end it up by saying that my hopes for the world as a future is that I'll be able to sit in the audience in the future and listen to one or many of you up here, because you all be leading the charge for the future and being the leaders that we've been waiting for. And I'm so grateful to be a part of your journey. So thank you all. Thank you all for coming.